The SAT prep is a mastery enabled courses, and we'll talk about what mastery enablement means in a second. But there are actually two different courses. So there's a reading and writing SAT prep course and a math SAT prep course. The content of both of those courses, they have in-depth lesson articles with practice exercises. Those exercises are built on three different difficulty levels. So there's foundation questions, medium difficulty questions, and advanced questions. And this helps scaffold the students so it meets them where they're at with all of the various skills that are being assessed. For students and teachers, there's access to progress reports, including a skills progress. And then if you join the district partnership, administrators will also have access to other reports where they can see how their entire school, all their teachers, and all their students are doing. The courses also have assignments, course challenges, which we'll talk about, quizzes and unit tests. And besides all of that content, there's information for students about time management, what to expect on test day, how to create a test prep plan for themselves. So there's just a lot of really robust content within each of those courses. The reading and writing course consists of 11 units covered by 41 different exercises within the platform. There are hundreds of official SAT items within the reading and writing content area. We've expanded this course this summer. So there are even more questions than there were previously, which is really exciting. And then there's the math section. There are 13 units in the math course that has covered over 111 exercises. So overall, between these two courses, there are thousands of items that students can use to support their mastery of this content. Khan Academy itself is really based on mastery learning, which helps students understand progress over time. It allows them to slow down when they need to, and then skip skills if they're already proficient at them. So we are really focused on this overall mastery learning. And so fundamentally, mastery learning encourages all students to work at their own pace. The key message when you talk to students is that have them focus on the skills that they need help with, right? And then instead of just moving through everything, kind of just getting through it all, right? Make sure they're focusing on those skills that they really need to work on. And so within the Khan Academy platform, students level up skills in these mastery-enabled courses by answering questions and exercises and quizzes and unit tests, for example. And as they level up these skills, it demonstrates their additional proficiency. So they might start at attempted, where they're getting fewer than 70% of questions correct. And then they can move up to familiar. And if they get 100% of questions correct on a particular exercise, that gets them into that purple area of proficiency. And that purple is really where we want them to be. The mastery piece comes through kind of a mixed review. So we want them to see that skill in another context, in another kind of way for them to be able to demonstrate their mastery. So when we talk about leveling up skills, this is what we're talking about, going from attempted to familiar to proficient to mastered. And we really want them to focus in those purple. In terms of what we call efficacious use based on our research, we would say 2 skills to proficient or mastered per week is kind of the goal we want students to get to. Now, that depends also, right? Like if a student is taking the SAT and they are starting to practice a month before they take the SAT, probably want them to level up more than 2 skills a week, right? They have to kind of move through that course a little bit quicker. But if they're starting at the beginning of their junior year with the SAT prep courses, 2 skills a week is really a great target for them to get to. Okay? And then if they have Khanmigo, which with your district partnership they would, students are going to have that one-to-one support to help them level up these skills to get, again, to that purple area. Now let's pivot to talk about the digital SAT prep courses and how they're organized. And you'll see that they're really rooted in how the SAT has been developed. So as you likely know, there are 2 sections of the SAT. There's a reading and writing section, and then there is a math section. Each section assesses skills in 4 different content domains. So for example, in the reading and writing section, the content domains are information and ideas, craft and structure, expression of ideas, and standard English conventions. And then you can see the 4 for math. So this is consistent in how the SAT is developed with these 4 content domains. If we then think about those content domains and how they translate into the course, again, keep in mind these 4 for reading and writing, information, ideas, craft, and structure, for instance. When we look at the table of contents for the reading and writing course, you will see how those content domains translate into the units. And then, as I mentioned before, each of those are scaffolded in different difficulties. So you've got the foundations for information and ideas. You've got a medium difficulty, information and ideas. You've got advanced information and ideas. So this is how the content domains are covered. They go over each different difficulty level to, again, scaffold the students for what they need. This is also how the math course is set up. So you have the domains, you have the difficulty level within each unit of the course. Now let's go even deeper. Okay? College Board has determined there are specific skills that are going to be assessed within each domain. So for instance, within the craft and structure domain, there are 3 skill or knowledge testing points that are addressed on the SAT. The first is words and context, where students have to determine the meaning of academic words or phrases in context or use vocabulary in a concise, conceptual way. Then there's text structure and purpose, and students need to analyze the structure of a text or determine the main idea of a text for that particular skill. Or cross-text connections, where students have to draw a reasonable connection between 2 related texts. Those are the 3 skills in the craft and structure domain. And if you're interested in learning more about the domains and the skills on the SAT, College Board does document all of this in the assessment framework, which can be found on their website. So just Google assessment framework and you'll have all the information that you want and more about those domains and skills. But that's kind of how we're scaffolding this, right? You got the domain of craft and structure. You've got those 3 skills underneath. And so this is how it kind of comes together within the course. Okay? If we keep our focus on the craft and structure, for instance, we can dive into a specific unit. So at the top, you can see this is unit 3. It's at the foundation difficulty level, and the domain being assessed is craft and structure. As you move down, you can see the specific skill, which is words and context, as being the first skill being reviewed within this particular unit. Each skill has a detailed lesson for the student to go through, as well as 2 sample videos for the students to watch and help them understand that particular skill. Once they get through the lesson and the videos, then they can go to a practice exercise where they're going to get about 4 questions on that specific skill. This is the opportunity for the students to demonstrate their proficiency by answering all of those questions in that set correctly. If they answer all 4 questions, they move to that purple proficiency level. If they don't, they're going to be in that orange familiar or attempted. They can go back, rewatch the lesson, rewatch those videos, or use Khanmigo to help them really understand what they're missing within that particular question or concept to help them move to proficiency on that particular skill. And then if we zoom out of a particular unit, students are provided with a visual representation of their entire course. Students can see mastery points, which gives them their overall progress that they've made within that course. Or they can see this image, which is the skill summary. It breaks down their proficiency in each one of those specific skills. So each one of those squares that you see is a specific skill within the digital SAT math course, for instance. And you can see within the colors, there are some there that are orange, and we want to move them to the purple. We want those to move to proficiency. So this helps students understand, okay, maybe I'm at a familiar one, just the half orange square. That's one I'm going to focus on to try to get up to proficiency. So it just gives a good sense, a good visual for students on where they should work on. Remember, best practices is at least 2 skills to proficient or mastered each week. But again, that's also assuming that a student has started preparing for the SAT well before they plan to take the test. And we assume that most students are going to get the bulk of their preparation during their junior year before they plan to take the SAT. There's lots of different ways that students engage with these prep courses. For example, your school may have an SAT prep class. It might be a full year class. It might be a semester class that you offer. Some schools have a seminar or advisory period where on Tuesdays and Thursdays, students will work on the digital SAT prep courses. After school programs or summer school programs are also a way students engage within these courses. You might not have any of those. And so maybe your core ELA or math teachers are having students go through the digital SAT prep course during independent work time, for instance. Or again, you may not have any of that, and students are just working on these courses on their own, at home. Maybe their parent is making them work on these courses. But there are lots of different ways that students engage with these courses. So if you could, in the chat, take a minute and consider all of the various ways that at your school, your students are engaging within this course, and throw that in the chat for me, just so we get a sense of how your students are using the SAT prep courses, if at all. All right, we've got one advisory class, student-driven experiences. Any other ways? Okay, flex period, good. Any other ways your students are engaging within this? A supplemental resource in the core courses. Okay, so there is no right answer to this or wrong answer, but it's important to know the various ways that your students can be working on these courses. And we've developed this new implementation guide as a way to help you think about what are some options and best practices depending on whatever model your students may be engaged in. So I'll make sure that Danielle and Barbara have access to this implementation guide so that you can look at it as necessary. But one example is having like this 8-month preparation program. So we offer some good strategies, some better strategies, and the best strategies for students who have this long to prepare for the SAT. It could be in a year-long SAT prep course. It could be in a year-long advisory course, or just students who have about 8 months on their own at home that they're planning to use to prepare for the SAT. So there's different strategies. And then besides the strategies, this guide also has sample schedules for students to follow, what units you should be kind of working on and when they should be taking practice tests. But as a reminder, these are only recommendations. Every student is different in terms of how much preparation they need, the type of preparation they need. And that's really the beauty of the SAT prep courses, is it can meet students where they're at, no matter where they're at. And then finally, in this implementation guide, if you're thinking kind of holistically about getting students prepared to take the SAT throughout high school, we offer a suggested preparation model for what students can be doing in their 9th grade year, their 10th grade year, and then during 11th grade to prepare for the SAT. So this is really a 4-year plan. The best and greatest advice, though, in those early high school years is just to make sure that your students are getting high quality, research-based instructional strategies that are hitting your standards. If they're doing that, they're going to be fine. But we obviously offer some support and some Khan Academy resources if you need them. So we'll make sure that you get access to this implementation guide if you're interested. So in general, when you're helping students think about best practices in preparing for the SAT, the first thing that we want them to do is start early. Okay, there may be some students who start a month or 2 before they take the SAT. It is what it is. It's going to happen. But the earlier they start, the better off that they're likely going to be. We really want them working towards a course mastery goal. So having teachers set a course mastery goal for students, depending again on what's appropriate and how long they have, will really help them give short-term goals on where they need to be throughout that entire course. We want them to take multiple course challenges, and I'll talk about what those are in a second. Students really should also be taking regular practice tests in Blue Book and reviewing their responses to identify strengths and weaknesses. So we've got obviously this really robust content in the digital SAT prep courses, but it's really more powerful to combine that with them taking practice tests in Blue Book. Those two things combined give them the best chances of success in their preparation plan. And when they take the tests, it's really important for students to take it with the same time and break schedule that they're going to have on test day. So if you can have teachers kind of proctor the practice exams, or if you can encourage parents at home to proctor the practice exams using the same timing and the same breaks as they will have on test day, it makes students more comfortable. It kind of eliminates some of that anxiety on test day. It gives them some practice with some stamina and time management. So having them just not take the practice test, but do so with the amount of time that they're going to have is really important. And then finally, if you don't have a way of supporting your students in school, then really encourage your parents to allocate dedicated time and quiet space at home for students to engage in Khan Academy so that they can work through these prep classes on their own. All right. As I mentioned, the course challenge is really important because it does help give students kind of an initial idea of where they're at within this course. It provides instant, meaningful data that can be utilized throughout the year. We do suggest doing it 3 times. So doing it at the beginning of the year is kind of that initial progress monitoring, where are we at? The middle of the year and the end of the year are also great times for students to engage in these course challenges. It's a survey of the entire course. So it's not going to ask questions on every single skill. They're going to get 30 questions and have about 30 to 45 minutes to complete that course challenge. But it helps level up some of those boxes. So instead of starting at white, of not started on anything, giving them that course challenge starts moving some of those boxes up to familiar or attempted. So it's a great tool as an initial spot to identify strengths and areas for improvement for students. So in summary, if you're going to use the SAT course in school, we'd want you to have the teachers add that SAT course in Khan Academy for their students, create a course mastery goal. Once that initially has been done, assign a course challenge at the beginning of the year. And then what's really important is to make sure that you're communicating those goals. If you want 2 skills to proficient or mastered a week, let students know that, let teachers know that, make sure that they're aware of what those expectations are. Also communicate this with parents so that they understand if they want to help at home and monitor their students' progress, they can do so as well. We talked about leveling up 2 skills a week as kind of best practice. We would translate in time to have students practice at least 30 minutes a week. Okay, it could be 30 minutes on one day, but it also could be 10 minutes, 3 days a week. So however you can fit that into your schedule, or students can do that at home, 30 minutes is a good target of time usage per week. And then as students are progressing through these courses, we want them to track their progress, helping students track their own progress with goal trackers or some way to help them understand how they're moving through the course is helpful. Sharing this data with colleagues and parents also kind of helps move the needle and keeps motivation going throughout the year. And then when you're done with that term, whatever that may be, celebrate success. Make sure that students feel like they've accomplished something and have some, really excitement going into that SAT where they feel confident and ready to take that assessment. As teachers, all your teachers will have access to the Khanmigo teacher tools. And there are a couple tools that are really helpful for teachers within the SAT prep courses. So as I mentioned, there's a lesson with each skill. If there's an SAT prep course at your school, for instance, and your teacher wants to be able to teach that skill, writing a lesson plan on that particular lesson is a great, easy way for teachers to have ideas and ways to teach that lesson. Because in some of our SAT prep courses, we see that maybe the social studies teacher is teaching that, and they really might not know how to teach the math content. So those lesson plans are going to give teachers a really great idea on how to engage students within the SAT prep course. The class snapshot is very powerful. It gives teachers a 7-day kind of overview of what students have been doing within the SAT prep course, how many skills they've leveled up. So it's just a quick little snapshot. And then recommend assignments. So again, Khanmigo will look at how students have been doing throughout the SAT course and say, okay, these 3 students should work on this assignment, and these 4 students should work on this assignment. And teachers can assign those assignments right from Khanmigo. They don't have to go to any other place for that. So lots of ways that teachers can be supported within these SAT prep courses as well. All right, I was going to show you a quick little demo. Before I do that and go into the platform itself, are there any questions that you have? Anything coming through? I don't think I saw anything, Danielle, that came through during the presentation. Okay.
No questions so far.
All right, great. So let's do a quick little demo. Can you still see my screen or no? Yes, okay. So when teachers or administrators go to Khan Academy, there'll be a certain dashboard view that they go to. This is the teacher view. So within a district partnership, if your teachers have used Khan Academy prior, where they've just signed up on their own and have had students join their courses, they've usually had a join code or have had students to join their class. With a district partnership, that doesn't need to happen. This happens automatically. Your district will roster your students and staff. So it's already there in Khan Academy. There's no like join code or getting students to enter that class. They're there. So if I go down to my SAT prep class, from a teacher standpoint, let me go to the activity overview. The first tab is just a general sense of how your students have been doing in a particular time frame. So you can see what Richard's been doing. You can see that he's been working in SAT math. You can look at the particular units that he's been working on, and you can even drill down into the specific skills that he's been working on. So Richard has been spending 15 minutes during the last 7 days. He's worked on 5 skills. He's leveled up 3. And he's gotten 1 to proficient or mastered of those 3. So this is just a general sense of the activity report that teachers will have. They can drill down to specific skills. So if I want to look at my SAT math course, I want to look at the foundation skills in algebra, I can drill down to see which students are attempted at that skill level, familiar, and nobody's proficient or mastered. So maybe, you know, John and Scott are familiar here. I can assign that particular skill right to John and Scott. So I want to try to move them up to proficient. I can just assign them that particular skill if I want to. So there's ways to really target specific skills and specific students as needed. And then teachers have access to looking at mastery. So if you set a course mastery goal, which we would recommend, you can see, you know, how students are progressing through that course. You can look at how students are progressing through specific units. So it gives teachers really great information about how their students are moving through this. If I go quickly over to the administrator dashboard, this will look a little bit different. Again, the administrator dashboard is only available for the district partnerships, but the administrator will have a chance to see in general how their school is doing on skills, average skills to proficient, Khanmigo usage, learning minutes, and skills leveled up. I can also, as an administrator, really drill down into those courses. So if I really want to know how my students are doing in that digital SAT math course, I can drill down to my specific schools. I can look at each class, SAT prep class in that school, and I can look at all of my students and how they're progressing. So again, really a lot of robust information for administrators as well, so they can kind of track how things are going within their classrooms. And the last thing I wanted to show you is to go over to those teacher tools. I mentioned a few of them about the lesson planning, for instance. but there's a lot more like exit tickets or lesson hooks or, refresh my knowledge, lots of different things. The one I really love and I wanted to show you, I talked about the recommend assignments. Let me show you that real quick. I'm going to go to my algebra class. It's going to say, hey, Khanmigo, I can group your students based on what they should work on and help you assign that content. You can pick particular classes, or if you have a particular student in mind, you could mention that student's name, and Khanmigo would recommend assignments for that particular student. But let me just click on my Algebra 1 class because I've got more content in this demo account for that. So I'm asking essentially, what should I assign my Algebra 1 class? As you see, it groups the students. So you've got Martin, Julie, Brandy, and Douglas. Here are two particular activities that they should work on. And then here's group 2. Rachel just has these things. So right from Khanmigo, I can assign those items. I can assign to all students, or if I just decide I want to assign all of them, I can. You can give start dates, due dates, times, but it's really, again, focused on what that group of students has been doing within that particular course. So I love the recommend assignments piece. But in closing, I want to show you the real world context generator. And I think this one's my favorite because I think a lot of times we get the comment from parents or other teachers or students of like, I'm not going to college. Why do I need to take this SAT? It doesn't impact me. And we've got a lot of different, responses to that particular question. But the real world context generator will actually give some really interesting thoughts for why some students will need to think about the skills being assessed on the SAT. So not even just thinking about the SAT, but like words and context is an enduring skill. It's a college readiness skill, but it's also a skill even if you're not going to college. So let's say I'm going to be working obviously with my 11th graders for the SAT, and I want to know why is it important to learn words and context for, let's say, I don't know, electricians. So this electrician doesn't want to go to college. Why do I need to learn about words and context? We ask Khanmigo, and Khanmigo gives us ideas such as, understanding technical terms and context is crucial for electricians to follow safety protocols correctly. Or electricians often need to read and interpret blueprints and technical diagrams, which are filled with industry-specific technology. When diagnosing and repairing electrical issues, electricians must understand the context of technical terms. So even though that concept of an SAT may be, not relatable for some students who don't have plans to go to college, those skills that are being assessed can be relevant across all students. And so I think this real world context generator gives a really kind of fun and easy way for students to be able to connect that and teachers to help them understand why those concepts are important, even if they don't have a plan to go to college necessarily. All right, so I think that was all I wanted to show you, unless there's anything specific that you want to see. But any other questions I can help answer?
Now's the time, y'all. Sarah's the expert, as you could see.
Well, at least hopefully some of you newcomers feel like you've leveled up to maybe an explorer or a scholar, and your explorers have leveled up. So hopefully you got a little bit more, context and information about using these courses, and Barbara's here to help you and whatever questions that you have as you go along. So Danielle, I'm gonna kick it back over to you if there aren't any other questions.
Great. So thank you all so much for joining to learn about the SATs. Thank you so much, Sarah, for presenting and sharing all this information. So again, if you have not signed up for the New Hampshire Partnership, or to find out more information, or to even send this learning series to more of your educators, I just put our blog in the chat. That's where we're driving traffic. Does anyone have any other just general questions? And then we'll give you actually 25 minutes of your life back this morning.
Actually, I have a question.
Yep.
If we weren't able to attend the previous sessions, is it possible to get those recordings?
Yes. Oh, actually, speaking of, let me stop this recording because no one needs to hear.
Yeah, Katie, I've got